To start understanding manipulation better, let's right away start with a quick exercise. I'll give you 2 scenarios. Your job is to spot which one is a manipulation and which one is a normal, healthy request. Okay, so you tell your boyfriend, husband, or even parent that tonight you want to go out with your girlfriends. And here is what they say in 2 different scenarios. Number 1, okay, I see. Sure, if you want to go, you can go. I'll sit at home alone then, I suppose. Have fun. And number 2, listen, I missed you a lot this week. We didn't really get a chance to spend that much time together. And I really just want to spend time with you, just the 2 of us. Just the 2 of us. Can we please reschedule your time with your friends for another night? Pretty obvious, right? The first one is a manipulation, but how can you tell? Think about how it makes you feel. If you've been in a situation like this, you might instantly feel guilt and shame for making other person feel lonely. Maybe there is even a little bit of fear because you know that if you don't give in, they might get cold, passive-aggressive, or even punish you with a silent treatment. There is no room for a no in a manipulation. Manipulation is a form of psychological influence that makes a person feel, think, or act contrary to their own will and desires. In other words, it leads them to a conclusion that they've been pushed toward. So what happens? Likely you will not go out that night, you'll just stay home and even still feel guilty for even considering going out with your friends. In our second example, it was a normal, healthy request because there's vulnerability. A healthy person can show their need for you and for your attention in a healthy way. A request is an open dialogue where it's possible to say no without a punishment. The ask is clear and explicit, it's not implied, and there's room for a yes or a no. It's like an invitation to a dance. So today we're talking about 6 most common manipulation tactics used by men. We plan to make another video about manipulation tactics used by women. They are similar, yet there's a difference. So let us know in the comments if you would like to see a video like this, and please subscribe so you don't miss it. So I would like to start with a phrase I really like. Manipulation is a way to make gold feel like it's worthless. It's a way to sell yourself for more and others for less. A manipulator creates a reality where you stop trusting your own perception and you start living in the reality that they created for you. Manipulator is pulling the invisible strings, so please pay attention to how you feel after a conversation with your partner. If you're often left with heaviness, guilt, shame, fear, confusion, or emotional discomfort, something is not right. Also, please don't focus on isolated incidents. If you find that multiple tactics show up regularly, it's not random, it's a system. System that is designed to make you question yourself and prioritize their needs over your own comfort. Also, as we move through the 6 manipulation tactics, I want you to pause and answer these few questions. Number 1, have I experienced this before? Number 2, where do I feel it in my body? Maybe tight chest, maybe dread in the stomach, maybe you feel anxious, restless in your body. That's your intuition telling you that something is not right. Question number 3. What do I believe about myself when this happens? For example, I deserve this. It's my fault. Question 4. How do I react after? Do I shrink? Do I over-explain? Do I feel numb? And finally, question number 5. What would I tell a friend in a situation like this? Because usually we're a lot gentler with our friends than we are with ourselves, and we can see clearer. So please hold these questions close as we move along. I will leave them somewhere on the side for your convenience, and let's start with the manipulation tactics. Number 1, guilt tripping. This tactics makes you feel guilty even if you haven't done anything wrong. It often comes with the passive-aggressive behavior to pressure you to make things right, or to prove your love. Typical phrases include, I have done everything for you, and you, blah blah blah. I am just so disappointed in you. No, I'm not mad. I'm just hurt. I'm just disappointed. Please don't let me down this time. So I'll give you an example, okay? Let's say you say to your partner, I can't come over tonight. I feel very tired and I need to take a rest. And they say, wow, well, I guess spending time with you is not a priority for you anymore. I was really looking forward to spending time with you, but fine. I'll just stay home alone like always. How does it make you feel? Instantly guilty, instantly ashamed, right? Tactic number 2, silent treatment. Silent treatment is a classic manipulative tactic. For the manipulator, it's not just silence, it's almost a form of training. It's like disciplining a child or a pet. Instead of saying, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, they withdraw, punish you, and expect you to guess what went wrong and fix it. They become the punishing parent, and you are left in the role of a confused child trying to read their mind. But here's the thing, you are not a mind reader. A real healthy relationship is not about decoding silence. It's about a dialogue. And the only way to break the cycle is for you to tell them, hey, I see you're upset. Maybe I hurt you, but I don't know how. How about we talk about it? Of course, that would be in an ideal world where the other person is ready for a conversation. But manipulators often are not ready for a connection like this because showing their real emotions and feelings feel dangerous to them. Because they have learned that the only way to get love, attention, or control is through punishment, through training others. Maybe their parents did that to them. Because we see this not only in romantic relationship, we often see it in families and parent-children relationships. Parents can punish their kids with silence instead of explaining what actually went wrong. And I have experienced this as a child. And often this toxic pattern gets passed down through generations. So if after a conflict someone shuts down and ignores you, please remember it doesn't come from a place of strength. It's not a mature behavior. Please recognize this. That isn't someone who is ready to solve the problem. It's someone who is acting out their old wounds at your expense. Manipulation tactic number 3, gaslighting. This is a very dangerous one because it undermines your perception of reality. It erodes your boundaries and you start tolerating the behavior that before you wouldn't. Example, let's say a woman says to her partner, when you flirted with that girl in front of me, it really hurt my feelings. And he responds with something like, are you serious right now? That's just your insecurity talking. You always twist things in your head. Maybe you should talk to a therapist about it. What just happened? He didn't take responsibility. He didn't say, I'm sorry, let's talk about this, I will not do this again. He made her doubt her own perception and even suggested that she was mentally unstable. That's gaslighting. That's not just manipulation, that's emotional disorientation. Over time, it erodes a woman's self-trust. She stops bringing things up, starts doubting herself, and eventually becomes quiet, just the way the manipulator likes it. So pay attention to phrases like, you're overreacting. I never said that. That never happened. You're being dramatic. You don't understand. Over time, you start doubting your emotions, your intuition, and even your memory. And you start relying more on his version of reality rather than your own. And that can be very, very dangerous. Also, there is a modern twist to gaslighting. It often hides behind the emotional intelligence these days. His response might sound very thoughtful, mindful, or spiritual, but it's still a manipulation. Let's take an example. A woman says, when I see that you are liking other women's photos online, that makes me feel hurt and insecure. Now that is a healthy way to express a boundary. You're just communicating your feelings. You're not attacking, you're not demanding, you're just expressing your boundary. Now, a man that really cares for you will say something like, "Hey, I heard you. Sorry, I'll stop." But a man that is not willing to change his behavior and just wants to twist things around and protect his ego, he will gaslight her. He might say things like, "That's your insecurity talking. You need to work on your self-esteem." Or worse, he will look her in the eye with his soft eyes and he will say something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I understand. I will never do this again. You're so right." But then he keeps doing the same thing again and again. And that's not awareness, that's manipulation. It's just dressed as empathy. Another form of a dangerous gaslighting happens when you set a boundary and someone tries to shame you for it. Let's say a girl says that she is not ready for physical intimacy. She communicates it clearly, respectfully, she is not ready. And instead of being met with care, she's told something like, "You're so uptight. Other girls don't make a big deal about this. You're boring, you're too rigid, you're too closed off, you're not fun enough." And it's very dangerous because then she might start questioning herself, especially it happens in younger women. She can start wondering, is there something wrong with me? Am I actually not fun, not cool? But no. And the moment you start feeling guilty for having a boundary, that's when the manipulation already started working. And you need to be very careful. Always pay attention. Real love respects your no just as much as your yes. And no amount of fake mindfulness or soft-spoken guilt tripping can change that. Gaslighting is especially dangerous in my opinion because it's a form of psychological abuse. Someone systematically distorts information to make you doubt your memory, perception, or even sanity. You begin to lose trust in yourself, your feelings, your mind, and your inner compass. It's a slow erasure of your own identity and a replacement with someone else's idea of who you should be. Manipulation tactic number 4, love bombing. At the start of the relationship, he floods you with attention, affection, and flattery. "I have never met anybody like you. You changed my whole life. Where have you been my whole life? Oh my God, I feel like I love you already." And it's been like a few days or just a few weeks. It feels intoxicating, almost magical. But love bombing is like gambling in a casino. At first, you win big and it's euphoric. The emotions are intense, overwhelming, and exciting. You feel seen, adored, and like the most special person in the entire world. And you want more. So you keep playing. But then the wins stop and you start losing time, energy, emotional balance. But you are already hooked. You keep chasing that high because you have felt it once and now you're starving for it again. The trick is love bombing is not always intentional. When we talk about manipulation, it's easy to imagine someone sitting in a dark room and plotting something against you. But in real life, manipulation is often unconscious. That doesn't excuse it, but it makes it harder to see. The person that is love bombing you might actually truly believe everything he's saying at the moment. They might genuinely feel enchanted, charmed by you, and they feel like they can move mountains for you. But often they're just drunk on a cocktail of hormones, emotions, and fantasy. But that is not grounded and it's not stable. But when that emotional fog clears, hormones settle and reality kicks in, what's left might be very different. It's not steady love, it's not long-term care, just silence and distance, and maybe even rejection. And that contrast, it's brutal because you have already tasted the fantasy. Because once you were the most special girl in the world and now it's all gone. So no, love bombing doesn't always come from a bad person, but it can create real harm. That's why it's not about judging them, but about protecting you. Whether it's conscious or not, if this dynamic or any dynamic negatively affects your mind, your heart, or your life, you have a right to walk away. Manipulation tactic number 5, isolation. Little by little, he starts cutting you off from friends, family, or your interests, and often from a place of love and care and concern. For example, he can say things like, "Your friends are a bad influence," or "I just want us to spend more time alone," or even, "That hobby of yours is useless. Why do you keep doing that?" The real goal is to strip away your support system so that you become more dependent and therefore easier to control. And that often can also be unconscious. Let me share a story with full consent from a former client of mine. She was a warm, very social woman, married with several children. She loved spending time with her girlfriends, nothing wild, just tea, laughter, connection, a little bit of gossip. But over time, something began to shift. Every time she wanted to meet her friends, her husband would often say things like, "What's the point? It's a waste of time. You just sit there and gossip about useless things. Clothes, nonsense, shallow stuff. You're a mother now. Your place is at home. Your kids need you. Your friends have life of their own. Grow up." And he wasn't shouting, he wasn't locking her in the house. But slowly, through guilt and repetition, she completely stopped going out. Every time she wanted to see someone, she felt ashamed, like she was doing something wrong. And eventually, the invitations stopped coming. The friends faded, and one day she looked around and she realized she's completely alone. Was her husband aware of what he was doing? Maybe not. Maybe he acted out of fear of losing her, fear of her finding the connection somewhere else. And fear in insecure people often shows up as control. And that's how isolation begins, not with a cage, but with a subtle pressure, guilt, repeated messages that your needs are selfish, immature, or silly. And the saddest part is he's still got to go out. He had his career, his social life, his space, while she felt like wanting connection was somehow wrong. I am not here to shame men. I'm not here to shame marriage or motherhood. I'm simply saying that every person deserves to have their friends, their interests, their hobbies outside of their home. In a healthy relationship, it's all about a dialogue, compromise, and a balance. As long as it's respectful, as long as both of you agree, then it's totally fine. But isolation is one of the most powerful, invisible forms of control. It doesn't always look like abuse, but it can leave deep scars. And finally, number 6, playing the victim. He always seems exhausted, wounded, or broken by life. Life is so unfair towards him. He might say things like, "It's just so hard for me. I don't know if I will ever feel happy again." And you feel like you're being pulled in this role of healer, the only one who gets him. You sacrifice your own time, energy, resources, trying to save him. For example, a woman says to her partner, "I don't feel emotionally supported by you lately. I feel like I'm going through things alone." And he can say something like, "Wow, after everything I do for you, working nonstop, paying the bills, stressing every single day, you still think I'm not enough? I guess I'll never be good enough for you." In that moment, he doesn't take in her words. He doesn't say, "Tell me more, how can I support you?" Instead, he turns around, and she feels guilty for even bringing it up. And this is emotional manipulation because it shifts away the focus from the issue and puts her in the role of an ungrateful partner, while he hides behind the mask of the suffering one. The question is, why manipulations work so well? Because manipulation is like locksmith's toolkit, and your vulnerabilities are the locks. For every emotional need, there's a tactic. For example, guilt for your kindness, isolation for your loyalty, victimhood for your empathy, and love bombing for your longing to be loved. So why do people manipulate? Contrary to a common belief, manipulation is not a sign of strength. It's a sign of fear, insecurity, and emotional immaturity. A manipulator is deeply afraid of rejection, being direct, or losing control. Their strategies often come from early life beliefs. Love must be earned through control. If I ask directly, I will be rejected. Manipulators do not have a healthy, secure self-esteem. A person with a secure, healthy self-esteem doesn't need to manipulate. They will ask you directly. They can take no for an answer. They can take rejection. It might be unpleasant, but they will handle it. But a manipulator cannot. What is the difference between healthy and unstable self-esteem? Healthy self-esteem, I am okay even if someone tells me no. But manipulator self-esteem is very fragile. I am only okay if I hear yes. Rejection equals collapse. I hope this video dissolves an illusion that manipulators are powerful and in control. In reality, what you're dealing with is not a strong alpha male, but someone wearing that image as an armor to hide deep feelings of shame, insecurity, inadequacy, or inner brokenness. They rely on control because they don't believe that they are enough as they are. When you stop seeing manipulative behavior as strength and begin to recognize it as a defense mechanism rooted in insecurity, it becomes easier to stop reacting with guilt or fear. It's not about you, it's about them trying to manage their own inner chaos. Understanding that doesn't mean justifying them, it means freeing yourself. Your healing begins when you stop romanticizing, excusing, or minimizing manipulation. You must recognize that what's happening is emotional abuse, not a complicated personality. And most importantly, give yourself permission to feel what you feel. That's how you reclaim your voice, your truth, and your power. So what can you do? Here are the few practical steps that can help you see and recognize manipulation. Keep a journal of events and your emotions. Look for patterns. Track what was said, what was promised, and what actually happened, especially with gaslighting. Check in with your body. Feelings like shame, tension, confusion, or anxiety are important signals. Talk to someone you trust. Often an outside perspective from a trusted friend can help you reconnect with your own. And here are some self-reflection questions that you can answer now. Which of these manipulation tactics feel familiar from your own experience? Try to name them. Put them out of the fog and give them form. Ask yourself, how do I typically respond when someone uses these tactics? What's the usual outcome? How does this repeated dynamic affect my self-esteem and emotional state? And please remember, you cannot save or change a manipulator. Change only happens when a person wants it from within. Your job is to take responsibility for yourself, not for someone else's healing. Let go of the illusion that you must fix them and prove your worth. Understand that someone's past or wounds doesn't excuse their behavior now. You can feel compassion for someone else's pain and still not accept how they treat you if they treat you badly. And I hope that this video of breaking down the 6 most common manipulation tactics used by men was helpful for you. If you have experienced any form of manipulation, please share in the comments and maybe your story will help someone else. It helped me in my difficult times to read other women's stories and how they coped. And remember, the danger of manipulation is not that it's invisible, but that every time it shows up wearing a new face. But the more honest you are with your own reactions, the more clearly you'll see it, and the more power you will have to choose differently. This was Shrink Happens, and stay safe.